Hello, guitar players. Have you ever checked out Schecter guitars? Well, I'm here to tell you that they make some wonderful stuff over there. They're also my sponsors for this season, and I couldn't be happier. Rather than reading a bunch of ad copy and doing that traditionalized sort of commercial for them, they were doing things a little bit different. They sent me a guitar. They sent me their Solo 2 Custom. I am traditionally a single cutaway guitar player, and the Solo 2 Custom is Schecter's version of that, and it comes fully loaded, fully stocked, ready to play tonight at any gig. It has Tone Pros hardware, it has their Schecter locking tuners, it has their Schecter USA Pasadena Plus pickups. This thing's just amazing. For the price point, you would have a hard time beating the quality of this guitar. So go out and find yourself a Schecter guitar. Look them up at schecterguitars.com. You will be happy that you did. I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors over at Jim Dunlop and MXR Pedals. We couldn't be luckier to have these guys on board with us. I personally use these products, and you should too. Find out more about them at jimdunlop.com. Let's get on to the podcast. Hey there, folks, and welcome to the Anti-Heroes Podcast with your host, Zack Blair. I am Zack Blair. Thank you for listening. I'm excited about my guest today. My guest today is a guy that I've sort of always satellited around. I've always been a fan of. And as you will hear, the Rise Against band, we have, it feels like forever, I've had a gentleman working for us, with us, that used to tour with Dave and his band Scared of Chaka, and I've always loved Scared of Chaka. They've always been, in my group, my friends group, just sort of this ubiquitous band that's been foundational to all the other bands we've all started. So it's always sort of Scared of Chaka. And I'm talking about the Denton sound, the Denton scene, the guys in Riverboat Gamblers and Mark Min and Bad Sports and all those bands and all these buddies of mine. So we've always loved Scared of Chaka. We've always talked about them, and my guest today, Dave Hernandez. But also, I've had a guy working with Rise Against forever, a guy named Michael Buck Bobroff. He has sold merchandise for us for 18 years, and he's a character. But he used to tour with Scared of Chaka. We talk about him. So I've always heard about Dave Hernandez and never quite met him. Here at Ruinous Media, that does my podcast, the CEO, the head guy in charge, is a dude named Joseph Plummer. And Joseph used to play drums for the Shins, and Dave was in the Shins. Yuki Matthews, that works with me here on the podcast, that he's co-producing, he edits. He is currently the bassist of the Shins. So there's just this big shared history. And again, I've never met the guy. So you'll hear, he did Scared of Chaka. That band broke up, and he joined the Shins. He sort of was in the larval stages of the Shins. You'll hear all this, but it's a pretty fascinating story. And man, what a great guy. I'm so glad I got to meet him. So I will shut up right now, and I'll let you hear my interview with Dave Hernandez. Hey, Dave.
Hi, Zack.
How you doing, man? We were just catching up about mutual people. And again, in other bands that we've been in that might have played together, when you've done this long enough, you tend to sort of run into the same folks over and over again. But I haven't ran into you too much, and I have followed what you've done. I'm a huge Scared of Chaka fan, and, on with the Shins. I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing now. But real quick, so Scared of Chaka just played a New Year's Eve show. What was that, just to do a New Year's Eve thing, or was there talk of getting back together, or what you guys got?
We have been receiving requests to do like little one-off reunions here and there for a while, for years. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we would, but then, they would come through and my reflex was just always like, nah, it's fine. And then something happened last year, and I was just like, I'm gonna start saying yes to these things. And, talked to Damien, our bass player, mm-hmm. and he said, well, yeah, that's cool, but I'm not down with this like nostalgia, oldies stuff. And then he kind of jokingly said, call me when you write some new stuff. So I wrote some new stuff, and I booked time in a studio, and I did a single. And then I said yes to some things. We did a Dillinger 4 show here in Seattle. That was fantastic. We did another show right after that. We had a show booked for Los Angeles with at the Sardine with the FYP guys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was going to be right before we flew to Mexico, but there was a medical emergency
Oh, no.
with one of us. Nothing serious. Everyone's alive and well now, but we had to cancel that.
Wow.
And basically, we have a drummer that sometimes does stuff when we don't have access to our original drummer, when Ron doesn't want to do something. But basically, we had to almost cancel Mexico, and then I was like at the last minute, I was like, how about I call Ron, and then just on the off chance he might be into me buying him a ticket to Mexico, and then playing a show like hours after he gets off the plane, and he did, and
Wow.
it was crazy. Yeah, he landed in Mexico like 90 minutes before we hit the stage or something. It was crazy. But yeah, Mexico City was the show we did before New Year's Eve, and that was in December. Yeah, it was a festival with Meat Bodies and Tootie from Dead Moon and Hunks and Spunks.
Wow, what a good. Oh, Hunks and Punks. Wow, what a good, what a great bill. What other profession do you just call somebody and go, hey, can you drop everything and get on a plane and play a show right when you get out? Like, yep, I'm there. I think as it's a part of our culture that just happens, you're all kind of waiting around on that call. And for the people that stand up to it and go, they accept that challenge.
Yeah.
My hat's off to that. I think that's great.
Yeah, it's a little piratey,
Yeah.
but it's also, it's kind of fun, and part of it is you don't want to let down your boys, and you don't want to it's just a kind of part of it.
Yeah.
And definitely like an element of that is why I first started getting involved in this in the 80s, the 1980s.
Yeah,
Holy
yeah,
crap.
for sure. So, man, that show with the FYP guys, I bet that
Yeah.
crowd was so excited to see
We
Scared of
we oh
Chaka.
yeah, we had to cancel, and we owe them a show. We're gonna try to do something this year. We're talking
Right.
about it, and but yeah, that would have been amazing. And just like kind of another thing where you're talking about where you're getting together with just old friends that you used to do like shows with back in the day.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned Mike
Yeah,
in
Mike
Riverboat
Wiebe. Mike,
Gamblers.
shouts outs to Mike Wiebe from the one of my closest friends. Yeah.
Yeah, man. We met in Denton,
Oh
Texas,
yeah.
forever ago, and at a Scared of Chaka show, and he's just one of those. He's pretty special. He's hilarious too. I love
He's
him.
hilarious and just what a talented guy. We have a band called Dracula's together. That's
Oh, cool.
yeah, like the Dirt Nap Records thing and
Yeah.
yeah, and it's in Texas. Well, there's not many of us, so we're kind of close knit. We all kind of play in each other's bands and all that stuff. Do you see more happening? Are you gonna try to record a full length with Scared of Chaka at some point?
I might. I'm definitely recording. I'm definitely writing new material, and some of it might be Scared of Chaka related. Some of it might be a new project that could, go hand in hand with the Scared of Chaka audience or
Right.
not. I'm not sure, but Scared of Chaka is definitely awesome. It's definitely, I have a lot of fun doing it, and like the new single is really really great and fun to do. Yeah, so I don't know about a full length, but definitely at least another few singles. I kind of like the idea of just like an old school existence of maybe just 7 inches in singles for a minute,
Sure.
and we're very close with Pete Manchetti, who runs Slovenly Records.
Right.
He put out the most recent 7 inch. So yeah, we'll probably. I could see us continuing doing like a couple more singles this year. That could be really really fun.
That'd be great.
I'd like that.
I mean,
Actually, yeah.
and so many bands, so many great bands never even had a full length out. Their whole discography
Right.
was just a collection of EPs that at some point get sort of put out as like a box set, or when it just ends up being like a full length, really. So,
Yeah, like old Black Flag stuff.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
like, fun fact: do you know that you've probably heard this? One of the Chakas. So we're talking about Chaka from Land of the Lost.
Right.
Did that actually scare one of you as a child? Because it did scare me.
No,
Okay.
it was one of those names that we were just riffing on. I used to be a DJ in like the Albuquerque public radio station through
Right.
the university, and we would just we'd play punk rock stuff and local stuff and demos and have little fun little wacky interviews and things, and some friends of mine came in, and we were just all riffing on like the I don't know stupidest band name that you could come up with, and someone said it was Chris Bell, who's in the Briefs, or he
Uh-huh.
was in the Briefs. He might have come up with that. He might have coined afraid of Chaka or scared of Chaka because we were obsessed with Chaka. I'm definitely obsessed with the whole like Sid and Marty Krofft.
Yeah. I try explaining that whole phenomenon to my wife, who, like we were saying, is from
Yeah,
Mexico, so
yeah,
she didn't get it when she was a kid. But like the Land of the Lost, the Bugaloos, the
yeah.
Sigmund the Sea Monster.
Uh
Um,
huh.
I think my first crush ever was the girl Bugaloo. I think
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Yeah,
British,
yeah, British.
cute little haircut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pixie hair, British is like, it was all there. But so one of the Chakas, if not the Chaka, was
Right.
the guitar player that is in the band Sugar Ray. I think the
What?
Chaka, yeah,
That's amazing.
is the guitar player in Sugar Ray. Yeah,
Whoa.
I know, I know.
I weirdly am friends with the current tour manager of Sugar Ray.
Ask him about it.
Yeah, they do because they do a lot of those like '80s cruise ships,
Yep,
like
yep,
where
yep,
you're
yep.
locked on a cruise ship and there's
Remember?
danger from like trichinosis as well as
Yes,
Smash Mouth. But like, there's they do casinos and like random multimillionaires will fly them to
absolutely.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I definitely can find this
Ask.
out for you.
Well, because my aforementioned band Hagfish knew those guys in the '90s, just from like being a band in the '90s. And
Yeah.
one time I remember, I can't remember how we were. Maybe we played a festival together or something, and they were messing with him, and they said something about fucking Chaka, and I was like, oh man.
Wow.
That thing used to scare the shit out of me. And they go, he
Yeah.
was Chaka.
He's literally Chaka.
He was literally Chaka. I was like, oh shit. I think you
I
kind of,
did, I Yeah, I did learn. I want to say this is true. I don't know if it's verified or not, but that one of the Detroit Pistons was a slee stack.
oh no shit.
And you can, I mean, to be a slee stack, you have to have the build of an NBA player.
Yeah, you
Like
gotta be
they're
a tall, skinny guy. Yeah.
tall, lanky, and I don't know. You don't have to be relatively athletic. You're moving really,
I
really
would think
slow.
so. Yeah.
But a Detroit Piston, I don't know which one, but might have been just a
It would be like being a Chewbacca. I mean, the original
yeah.
Peter Mayhew, that guy was like 7'7" or something. I mean, like something
Right,
ridiculous.
exactly. So it's
Yeah.
very believable that a pro ball player could have been a
Yeah.
slee stack.
I,
Wow, I love peeling back the onion of who was in all these
yeah.
Sid and Ray Kroft
Exactly.
things,
We
man.
could keep talking about this, actually.
We could. I'd
Um,
love to.
I'm going to get into your guitar choices and all that stuff, but like with your career, so what was the timeline like with sort of Scared of Chaka's first tenure being over, and then that leading into Shins and things like that?
Totally. So, Scared of Chaka starts in 1993
Got it.
in Albuquerque, and the '90s in Albuquerque, at least to us, were a real special moment. We had a lot of really extraordinary bands that were like sort of one of the best in whatever field
Right.
that like one of the best estrus garage bands is the Drags,
Yeah.
and we had like sub pop single of the week bands, we had like some, I don't know, 10th wave new wave bands and just mod bands, but we had a really good kind of built to spill pavement band called Flake Music, and we were friends of theirs. And so Scared of Chaka, through the '90s, we're just like, it's just a big friend group in Albuquerque with all these other bands. Scared of Chaka is touring for like the next 4 years pretty hard, and we have like a lot of less singles, handful of full lengths. We're in Japan and Europe. We're touring everywhere with Mike Bobroff, and yeah, and meanwhile, our friends in Flake Music are doing their own thing. And then there's a rumor that starts up that the main guy, James, is running these demos, and they're incredible and amazing, and it's the best thing Albuquerque's ever heard, and he needs a bass player. And I've never played bass before,
Right.
but I figure, well, I'm a guitar player. How hard can it be? Guitarists are such dicks.
I
We're
know.
we're so mean.
I know.
Like
I know.
bass as a study and a practice is it's magical, and I respect bass players greatly. But back then I didn't, and I was just like, I could do that, and like I picked up a bass and I started just like noodling around, and yeah. It was real casual, and like there was a party where James asked me to put a bass line on a song, and he put the cans on my head and went upstairs, got a beer, and I came back and I had it. And it was new slang. It was
Oh wow.
the song New Slang, and like 2 or 3 songs maybe on O Inverted World, and then they do their thing, we're doing our thing, and then something. I moved to Seattle in 2000, and at that time I'm working at Sub Pop, and Shins are on Sub Pop, and James and we're just bullshitting on the phone a lot, and then he just brings it up to me like, how would you like to get back in the Shins? And really quick, I just like look at my bank account, and then I come back like, yeah, that sounds great. I
Yeah,
could do that.
yeah, let's do it.
But it was great being back with like a bunch of friends that I hadn't really been around a lot, and helping
Yeah,
construct my parts of the songs of those early, like shoots and
yeah.
wincing. It was really really fun, and it was a really good time. It was a really really great period, and yeah, most of the 2000s were spent in
What
that wild world.
what a great band. What a great band.
Yeah, man.
And any projects? I mean, for the initiated, any projects after your tenure with the Shins? Have you done anything musically since then? But it's not Scared of Chaka solo stuff, anything like that?
There's a band called The Intelligence,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
and in the Red, with In the Red Records.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was a band that like we kind of like would intersect with OCs and
yeah,
Ty Segall and stuff, like just like in that whole world. And
yeah.
so I'm on like 4 records of on The Intelligence, and we did a lot of touring in France. We did a lot of like festivals in
Oh wow.
France and stuff. We did a little bit of touring in the States, but the majority of our touring feels like it was overseas. But yeah, The Intelligence was really really good, man. It was a fun, just kind of off kilter, uncomfortable, kind of like no wave,
Yeah,
weird, just a lot of tension,
which is always the
no
best.
resolve. Yeah, yeah, it's that stuff.
I have a lot of friends on. That's a great label. I have a lot of friends on that label.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my buddy Orville Neely is playing in a band called Memo EST right now. Got a lot of great bands. Talk about a little bit about your gear with Scared of Chaka, then your gear with Shins. So with Scared of Chaka, what predominantly were you using?
Yeah. So there's my first guitar in Scared of Chaka was a Mitchell.
Oh
Do you
wow.
know the guitar company Mitchell?
I know of, and I'm having a hard time because I'm a dork.
So I believe that they were primarily an amp company.
Okay.
I have yet to find a lot of Mitchell amps, but someone told me that. And they did a handful of guitars as well. But I was in this guitar shop needing a guitar for Scared of Chaka, and I saw this guitar on the wall, and the body was like a Les Paul with the cutaway cut off.
Okay.
It looked kind of like a Devo-y kind of thing. It looked really cool, but it played like a Les Paul.
Like a Les Paul. I'm looking it up.
Yeah, it was the weirdest, but it felt really good, and
Uh-huh.
it was just like it resonated perfectly, and it was a brass nut.
Okay. Very
The
70s.
saddles were weird and like springy and floaty, but yeah, I played the hell out of that thing, and with an orange, I did
Okay.
like an orange half stack.
All that's coming up is weird shit. I'll do
Yeah.
it off. I bet I gotta find it now. Anyway,
Not a big company, man. Not like
yeah.
really random. But that I kind of liked that. I kind of liked that I could do this guitar that I had never seen, and I didn't run into many other people that had
Well, that's
Mitchells.
that's a theory I have about like some of the best punk rock artists. I mean, like, and no real other genre of music. Did somebody take an oddball guitar and go, "That's my guitar. That's what I'm
Yeah,
gonna play," because no one else plays it. Whether it was Greg Ginn with the Dan Armstrong, Johnny Ramone
yeah.
with the Ventures Model 2, and not the actual, the beginner guitar.
Right, right, right.
So many guys did that with such, Dwayne Dennison with the Travis Bean, the aluminum necked
Mm,
and Albini. They took these oddball guitars because maybe they were the cheapest thing in the store. It was a company like Mitchell. It was something else that just made a few and that didn't work out, and so they
yeah,
stopped. And that's what we could afford. And then it became that guitar that was synonymous with that person. I love that. I love that whole thing.
totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. The guitar I had right after that was a Fernandez,
Okay.
a little bit more well-known
Yeah, but
guitar.
good stuff.
It didn't look like the Ventures thing, but it reminded me of like kind of like a Ramonesy Devo feel. It wasn't normal, but it was super heavy, super solid,
Yeah,
and I could throw it around a lot,
that's good.
and it just never lost a tune. It's vanished. I literally have no idea where it was stolen. Like I played a show and then it was backstage and then it wasn't here in Seattle.
Oh,
I believe that it might have ended up in Portland, but I can't prove it. but but yeah, the Mitchell and the Fernandez worked great, and my philosophy that I was starting to build at that point was because I was also starting to like strip down my amp
sure.
like style, and I was building into this thing of like the solid guitar with like the humbucker and like the thick, big, heavy, deep
Hmm.
feedback with a little amp, like blowing out the twin, blowing
Yeah.
out the deluxe with like a solid, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was building this idea and I just started falling in love with it. Like you could hit it light and it's pretty and light. You could hit it hard and the amp breaks
Sure.
and it's perfect. It's just it was a very real overdrive. It was a very real distortion,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And it just felt like I like the idea of like it sounds like the amp is on its last legs and it's about to just break in two.
Right.
And I also like how different amps of the same brand and the same
Sure.
year and the same model can be completely different. You know,
Absolutely.
it's just one of those magical
Yeah.
things. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was around the time I was just building that philosophy of like the thick guitar with the thin amp.
And the combo. Yeah.
And I never used a pedal.
Oh, wow.
Never, ever. I just never, like, not even a tuner. That was weird. And it was a mistake. But I just, so like one of our records, Masonic Youth, is like so painfully out of tune. And I forced Damien to tune to me. And I think I was like half a step south. It was awful. It was awful. So you can't like, he has to learn some songs for
Hmm.
shows and he'll play that. And it's just like,
I don't know.
it's you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that was my other thing, like thick guitar, little like Fender style amp, and then no
No
pedals
pedals. I love
for
that.
Scared of Chaka.
A few things, a few takeaways. Like A, that rig is excellent for touring in a band because
Yeah.
you can take in everything with two hands. And
Oh yeah.
B, a guy that did that to incredible effect and just blew my mind was Rick Sims from the Digits. You
Totally.
know what I mean? Like back, I
Wow.
remember seeing him like in the early '90s, and I always
Yeah.
idolized that band. I love that band. I loved
Yeah,
him,
man.
and his posturing and his rock. He was like a character up there. It was like the rock star thing. You would think he would have had a wall of Marshalls, but he always had like one of those little Music Man combo amps, and then later a matchless. He had a matchless, but it was just a curly cord, an SG, a curly cord, and the Music Man combo amp on top of
Yeah, man.
a drum case. Like a tom or a kick drum case. And that
Yeah.
that was what he used, and it always sounded amazing. And it was the same thing you're talking about. It broke up in the
Yeah.
same way. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about like, I don't know, after a while you do it so much that it's almost like a superstition and you
Sure.
can't record unless it's like that. I have a thing. One sec.
Okay. David's getting up, everyone. I believe he is going to get something. I am looking up his Mitchell guitar, but I can't find it.
This is my Guild S100.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, those are great.
the greatest guitar in the world. You'll notice I don't clip my strings,
No, fuck
and
it.
it's bad, and you can hear it. But like it's a thing I started doing when I had the Mitchell.
Yeah,
And for whatever reason, I think one time I broke a string, then I wound it wrong and it just slipped out, but that's because I just didn't loop it.
yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, well, I can never clip my string ever again. And then that just became
The
this
thing.
like stupid superstition of mine, you know? And Lars and the Intelligence hated it.
Right.
Hated it because I'd be like on his stage right and he'd be center singing and I'd turn and he'd just get like this
Just ring. Yeah,
and he would just like one of these days your high E is just going to go directly into my cornea. Just-
yeah. Dude,
just
it's had to
squirting,
have happened. It's had to have
which
happened.
probably has happened. Oh, one thing that did happen was Scared of Chaka did a show in Germany and in a basement that was very leaky and very sweaty and the back line was just this like weird, probably KGB issued off Marshall. It wasn't really a Marshall, and
Yeah.
like the front face was just steel.
Wow.
Nothing was grounded.
Oh, wow.
Nothing was grounded at all. And I was trying to like arrange things, and it was chaotic behind me, and like people were running around, it was real loud. and I had everything on, and I turned the amp on, and then I just turned this way, and one of my long ass weird strings, because it was plugged in over here, and it was over there, and it hit the front of the Marshall, and like a fuse, just like, psst, and then the Marshall just boom.
No fucking way. Holy
Yeah, man.
shit.
Yeah, dude.
Did it
That
just
that was
blow it
a
out?
yeah. So yeah, there. I have broken things with
Good.
my long strings.
Good.
I should think about it.
We're nothing if not superstitious. And I feel like, if you have a good show, there's a good. I don't believe in much, but I believe in the sanctity of the thing. If you could get through a show and land the plane and it all went okay, like maybe
Hmm.
maybe repeat that, whatever it took to get there. You know.
Yeah.
Did you play the guild? And so with the Shins, you play bass and guitar. Am I wrong? Or is it wasn't always bass?
Yeah, bass and guitar, and but the Guild was definitely my Shen's guitar,
That was the
100%.
Shins. Did you have just the one, or did you also go for no pedals there and all that, or what was your rig
No,
there?
I did pedals. I did a little blues driver. It wasn't dimed at all. It just had a little bit of an umph when I
Mm-hmm.
had to have like a little solo or whatever. And I had a what was my digital? It was some digital delay. I forget if it might have just been Ibanez.
Okay.
But yeah, it was super bare bone for for that world. I mean, that's when I'm starting to intersect with bands that have gigantic pedal boards, and I just bring my two guys out. It was a lot, and it worked great.
All right.
I accomplished a lot of pretty good things and guitar lines and solos using just those two things.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
So
yeah, the Guild
the
for
guild the whole
100%.
time, huh? That's great.
S100. Yeah,
Wow.
but it's because I always wanted an SG, but the neck is so unforgiving, and it's a little thin and sharp for me. But the body always looks cool. So the S100 was like
It's a
it,
happy
to
medium.
me it just like solved everything, you know.
Yeah, I have a guild that I love. It's the SD. It's the real ugly one. It's this guy. You know.
Oh yeah,
The
sweet.
Yeah, and it's got a single. I got it in Seattle actually. For anybody that Yeah, the S
Yeah, there's the headstock.
the
Yep,
S
yep.
the S60D. I have two of these. I have a black one too, and I just love it. I
Cool.
love the neck on it. Anyway, I could just show guitars all. It's like the little kid thing. You show your toys.
Yeah.
Um.
Do you see? Do you see? Let me see if that.
Oh
Can you
yeah.
see any kind of change in the wood
Yeah,
grain?
yeah, yeah. Oh, you had it splined.
This was on stage in New York, and it was just in its little stand at the end of the show. And this one of the stagehands like accidentally stepped on the cord, and it just fell forward
Oh,
on the wedge, and just the head just snapped.
wow.
I was traumatized. It was the worst thing in
Hmm.
the world. But yeah, this guy in Chicago just. I guess what he did is he broke it
Yeah.
more clean, completely off, and then just like,
That's a
you know,
great job too.
he
I
did a great job.
and I only know that because it's called splining, and
Lining.
I had a Les Paul Custom that I had painted like Michael Schenker, so half black, half white, and
Ooh,
I loved it. It was my favorite guitar,
nice.
and I was losing it forever. And the headstock popped on it, and it kept popping, kept popping. So then they were just gluing back together glue, and somebody originally
Right.
had mentioned that, and I just didn't have that done. But now I am having it heat treated, so with a glue in neck like that, you can heat treat it and pull that goddamn thing out of the neck socket and replace the neck with, for this it'd be a Les Paul Custom. I found a Les Paul Custom neck, an 80s model that a guy took home from the factory that he worked there. It was on
So you're
reverb.
kind of like pulling it off like the end of the truss rod.
No, it's like, it's in like a pocket, like the neck, it's got sort of like a
My
tooth.
God, we are nerding
Yeah,
out right now.
and then and then you heat treat that and you just pull it out, so it's kind of like a divot. It's like the way it fits into the body.
Oh,
So it's it's glued in basically. You can heat that glue
oh,
and pull it out. So I'm having all of that done right now. The guitar was a
cool.
wall hanger. Like they had fixed it, and the guy was like, "Dude, it's gonna keep breaking. There's not enough wood really to keep this going." So I had this genius idea. If it doesn't work, fine. I haven't been able to play it anyway. So anyway.
Yeah. I just came from this place in Seattle called Emerald City Guitars.
Oh, I know Emerald City very well. I bought a bunch. I love
Hmm.
those guys. Shout
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
My good friend Mike Easton came into town to sell and trade, and I met him down there. You know, you have to like get buzzed in, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's beautiful.
Place
It's
is
run by
amazing.
the best people. I think they had Dave Davies's Flying V
Wow.
that, and they had it online for a minute, but then it just got sold like last week for a lot of money. But You know the podcaster Mark Maron?
Yeah, very well. I don't know him, but I
He,
love that podcast.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So he went in there with another comedian who was opening his show in Seattle, and it was during COVID, and he created a kerfuffle, and then he blazed him online. Apparently, he wanted to have a look-see at a guitar that was behind the glass that was like 16 grand, and they were in the middle of doing some inventory, and they didn't give him the attention that he desired. And one of the saleswomen was like, "Well, if you have 16 grand, he was like trying to make a joke, like you can have it." And he pulls his mask down. He does the whole like, "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah,
thing and stuff. It was pretty, yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing. That
Sounds like a cool guy.
that place is unbelievable. I love that place. And you know,
Isn't it the best?
it's the best. I was just in Seattle recently, and they were closed. I was in there one day. We didn't have a day off, and like I was there one day, and they were closed. I was like, God damn it! So I really wanted to go. I did go to Thunder Road Guitars, and those were good people
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah,
Good,
yeah.
good
It's a
folks
great
as well.
spot.
Yeah, yeah. How long have you been living? How long have you lived in Seattle now?
24
Oh
years.
wow, no shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Moved here in 2000, Thanksgiving of 2000. So it's like whatever year it is, it's kind of around there. Yeah, I moved here and I was in the middle of doing like the last Scared of Chaka full length. That earthquake happened, the
Hmm.
Snoqualmie quake during that recording. I mean, during the process of the recording. But yeah, 24
Wow,
years, it's been really, really good.
good.
I like it. I get back to Albuquerque semi-frequently, and,
Hmm.
and I've done some traveling. But yeah, Seattle
That's
for
great.
24 years.
I love it there. I really do. I was just talking to my
Yeah.
brother about Seattle and Emerald City Guitars. It's funny. Just today we were talking about that. You know, it's funny. I was going to ask you about one that got away, like a guitar, a piece of gear, something you had to caulk or something that got stolen, and you already covered that
Yeah.
with the Fernandez.
That's Fernandez.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny now that I think about it. I think I remember seeing a picture of you with a Fernandez. It wasn't orange, was it?
Black and white. It was
It was black
black
and
with a
white.
white cutaway or a white pickguard.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah.
And I know the model number, and I cannot remember what it's called, but I was in Guar for a while, and before I'd been in the band, they were endorsed by Fernandez. So there was all these Fernandez guitars.
Whoa, that's
So you could
cool.
just grab guitars to go on tour because they, you know, it just blood and shit got. And
Yeah.
there was a few of those. Our other guitar player, Mike Dirks, was using those, and I know I cannot remember the
Hmm.
name of the fucking. It's gonna kill me, and I'm gonna look it up, and I'll know afterwards.
Cool.
But anyway, Dave, thank you so much for doing this, man. I'm a huge
Yeah, of
fan. Like I
course.
said, I'm Scared of Chaka, everything you've done, and so is through touring with Mike Bobroff for 18 years. He talks about you very fondly, so it's been
Shout out Mike Bobroff.
my shout out, Mike Bobroff. All right, Dave, thanks so much, man.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, talk to you soon. So there you go. And it's one of those guys where, you know, like I said, we've sort of circled each other forever and we've known the same people. I'm pretty sure my old band Hackfish played a show with Scared of Chaka at the Launch Pad in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which if you toured in the 90s, you played the Launch Pad in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It was just a great place. It's kind of like their CBGBs. It's still there. But man, Dave Hernandez, he's just the real guy. He's the real deal. Just played what he played, and he had his ethos around certain things and his superstitions, and he just went out and he played. He found a guitar that worked and a combo amp, no pedals, and he went out and he wrote cool songs and made great records. And man, those Scared of Chaka records are, do yourself a favor and get any of them. There's the Tired of You record. There's the Crossing with Switchblades record, which, you know, I always leave people with a song from my guest at the end of it, but God, this one was really hard because, of course, I'm Atomic Baby on Crossing with Switchblades, which is great, but I think I'm going to choose Straight to the Office off of Tired of You. And really, it's just the overall energy. It's a great, expertly written song, but, you know, when you listen to it, at least for me, you can hear that it's just guys in a room playing their hearts out. You can hear that he's playing a combo amp and just a guitar he liked. He didn't care about the history of it. He just picked this guitar out. And that's what I loved about those early days. It's what I loved about getting in a van with all your friends and going out and doing it. You're just playing. That's the energy and staying up all night, drinking bad coffee and just getting on stage in front of somebody and that release. And that to me was what Scared of Chaka was all about. And these records are all about. They're raw and they're rough. And those are my favorite records, man. You know, when a band is able to get on to tape what their live show sounded like. And all of these Scared of Chaka records sound like that to me. What an important band. I feel like they're not lauded enough. That's my mission statement here on this podcast. I don't feel like Dave Hernandez is lauded enough for his contribution, but I'm going to give him that recognition, folks. That's what I'm here for. Check out his work with the Shins, Shoots Too Narrow. The Shins records everybody knows. That's Dave on those records too. Dave's own band is Scared of Chaka, where he sings, he plays guitar, and he writes, but he's a huge contribution to the Shins and what made the Shins so great. He was there from the get-go, playing bass. So anyway, I love that interview, and I hope you did too. I'm going to thank the folks at Jim Dunlop and MXR Pedals. Find out what they're doing at jimdunlop.com. And the folks at DistroKid. They're helping artists get their music on the streaming platforms and cutting out the middleman. Thanks for listening, folks. I'll see you next time.